And then we start heading in closer to Hyrule Castletown.
Yes, because we're in Lanayru province, so there's actually a precedent for that. So I've introduced a bunch of mandolin into the lake and the Zora. Then I started with the fortune teller, because I thought the fortune teller she represented Hyrule Castletown pretty well, but still had that bit of mystique similar to the Zora's. And I mean, her room's even full of shells and stuff, so there's an aesthetic connection, although it's sort of one I made up. It's the same kind of percussion. I had an excuse to keep using it smoothly, the sort of bongo drums, and the chimes and everything, and then I ease out of her bit and go straight to the castle town. And I started with the back streets of the castle town because it was a little more low key, like her place. Her place is sort of a corner somewhere. So we're going through the alleys of Hyrule, and then we jump into the action and go to the town square, and it's all like an Italian marketplace or something.
And that's like such an interesting reimagining of the original Hyrule market from Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, definitely.
A way that they were able to expand it so there's a lot more to see and a lot more to do, and it wasn't, just a static image with a bunch of crazy polygonal people running here and there and making motions with their hands.
And that was actually my favorite part in the medley, and it was partly because of what you're describing. When I played Ocarina of Time as a child, I wanted so badly to see more of that castle town.
Mm-hmm. It was so small, almost just like a tiny taste of what could be there.
Yeah, exactly. So you probably noticed I had the bard singing in the castle town.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
And I tried to make it sound like he was singing lyrics. I used the VST that just kind of gives the illusion of that. And in my imagination, he was actually singing about Princess Zelda and her beauty.
No, it totally sounds like that. He could just be underneath the window with a delicate rose in his hand or something.
Exactly. I like to think everyone in the town just adores her. She seems like the most lovely incarnation of Zelda to me. The wisest, probably the oldest, just by a couple years anyway.
Well, and interestingly, we had, back in Lake Hylia, it was a complete departure from the dusty road. And then we come to the town and relax there for a while and hang out with the guy singing about Zelda. And then it's back to the desert.
Yeah, back to the desert.
Quite swiftly and uncompromisingly.
Well, that's because you're going there by cannon.
Gerudo Desert was one of the songs that stood out to me most when I first played it. It was
It was cool.
Adventurous and daring, and it felt like I was Indiana Jones or something heading into some great ancient tomb.
Yeah, I can remember that. I was thrilled with that desert. I just ran around for hours as a wolf. And I was very delighted to find the bugs there, too. I got really into the bug quest.
Yeah, I never finished the whole thing, but I did get a little bit obsessed with it. It was very fun.
I consider Agatha to be a kindred soul. It was a little difficult to find a place to put it at first. Where I put it, I think, is where it should be. But I knew it had to be there because of its significance holding that prison and the Twilight Mirror.
But Gerudo Desert, it does link really well with the Hidden Village theme.
Yeah, aesthetically, it does. It has a lot of the same kinds of emotions in it. That Indiana Jones thing you were talking about. They both actually have a sort of Wild West feeling, although the Hidden Village much more so. It actually has a North American quality to it, or perhaps Central American.
The Hidden Village had, they basically went for a Wild West shootout theme, which caught me off guard, and I thought was sort of hilarious and great.
Yeah, I liked the cat quest.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the cat quest. That was good.
I was very sympathetic to their quest.
Oh, no kidding. You gotta help the cats out. They're always watching. So, transitioning from that to Xant's theme, that's sort of an important transition, I feel. It's
very stark, although I think I made it smooth, but yeah, it definitely changes pace there. It suddenly gets much darker. Do you have a guess or no? Why I chose to go to Zant after that?
I actually can't hazard a guess beyond the mere fact that the Hidden Village has so much to do with the Sheikah.
That's why, yes.
Oh, I got it!
Yeah, I was hoping. I was hoping people would pick up on that, but I wasn't really sure, right? But yeah, the Sheikah are such a mysterious race in the series. Honestly, I'd love to play a game where you actually get to explore their culture and meet more than one or two of them.
Definitely. I've been dreaming about a game where you play as Sheik and Zelda in different sequences of the game.
I'd love that.
And all the characters around you have no idea you're the same person.
Another one I'd really like to do. A game where you play as a Gerudo warrior, and the entire thing is in this sort of desert aesthetic, but you get to see way more of their whole continent or nation.
That'd be great.
And there'd be a bunch of desert dungeons, and there'd be different oases and little ports and whatnot.
Totally different look on the Zelda. It'd almost be like how Wind Waker made everything into an ocean and an island. Everything would suddenly become a desert and an oasis instead.
Yeah. And Skyward Sword with the sky.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, that'd be great. Speaking of the sky, that's what we got up next with the City in the Sky.
That is true. Yeah, City in the Sky. After that, I thought, well, let's do a dungeon run. I haven't done any dungeon themes yet. And after Hidden Village, there were only 3 dungeons left. So I just thought I'd put them all in there, because every Zelda medley I have a little dungeon segment, usually. And City in the Sky, I've virtually seen no covers of that. There was no MIDI of it. I had
definitely
to do the whole thing by ear, and that was a pain without...
Yeah, that's a real easy one to get just by ear, isn't it?
So I didn't actually honor that completely. I instead had a whole host of other noises, the piccolo flute going up and down, and on these operatic voices rising and falling, and the harp makes you sound like your head's spinning. I was trying to capture the gravity and the wind and the vertigo. I tried to take the City in the Sky theme toward the Twilight Palace theme because I felt they were by far the 2 most alien dungeons. And I felt that the floatiness and the strange physics of the City in the Sky felt aesthetically similar to the Twilight. The Twilight Palace almost seems like it's existing in the 4th dimension or something like that. It's outside of time. And the way that the hero actually gets there almost reminds me of the time portal in Skyward Sword, which I'm certain they based slightly on the Twilight Mirror.
So that brings us to the exploration of the actual Twilight, which we haven't talked about very much. And for those who remember, when they were originally showing off the Twilight Zone, if you will, in the original trailers, I believe it was much more of a black and white aesthetic. It felt very
it was
monochrome, very stark. And I was surprised in the game where it turned out to be much more of a haze, much more true to Twilight, I suppose. It felt like a dreamlike haze, not necessarily a, black and white existence of dust and cracks and that sort of thing, which I thought was actually ended up suiting the game a whole lot more, not to mention the musical style that accompanied it.
Yeah, the music they picked for that, or I guess that was created for that, really captured the feeling of being in between places. Similarly to the Lakebed Temple, it had this kind of almost suffocating quality, like the air was thick with something. This sort of ambient, almost breath-like noise in each of them. In the Lakebed Temple, you had that kind of sound mixed with the actual instruments. In Twilight, you had something very similar. Background noise with little bits of melody coming in and out.
Yeah, it's a very, very ethereal, almost piecemeal, alone in a strange land kind of theme.
The actual chords used in Twilight, just the track called Twilight, is filled with discord. I don't know if you've ever actually sort of dissected it, but many parts you're playing a bunch of semitones together. And because of the instrument they're using, it doesn't quite sound as discordant as it might with something less subtle. And because of that, it's actually very difficult to tell what key it's in. So when I was doing that part, I had to kind of experiment quite a bit, and I wanted it to be melodic, but I also wanted to be true to how it actually was in the game. So I actually had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, it in a way it gives you a lot of room to experiment while following a very unclear blueprint along the way.
Yeah, exactly. After the Twilight theme, I went on to the Sages Are Mourning. Sages Are Mourning, I always love that theme. It's so solemn and mysterious, and I could continue with the choir that I'd been using in the Twilight theme, and they felt connected. And from there, I went to the inside the Hyrule Castle, right when you're in the foyer. That worked because it was still slow and there wasn't too much going on. I had to sort of taper off the Sages Are Mourning to make it less complex so that I could suddenly go to this solo track. It wasn't actually solo though, I used a solo flute and a solo clarinet together to make that effect almost like an echo. And then
that's interesting. And you can, it has that sort of almost I almost want to say lonely quality to it, but yeah,
very much so.
And then you mix that with a little bit of the evil Ganon making his appearance.
Yeah, well, that wasn't my idea. I can't take credit for it because if you recall, as you pass through the castle and you get closer to Ganon, his theme starts mixing with the Hyrule Castle theme, and that was probably the coolest part of the whole game. The series of platforms and the ghosts are pointing you in the direction you need to jump, and the music's getting more intense as you ascend the castle. And it feels like all these fallen warriors probably died trying to defend the castle or aiding you.
There was a sense of dread building in that portion of the game, a sense of dread and determination at the same time that was pretty unforgettable. Yeah,
I would have to agree with that, but it was also very, very exciting.
Definitely. But in the back of your mind, you always knew Ganon was behind this, right? It's like...
Well, once I heard that theme, it was very clear.
Yeah, suddenly it all starts falling into place.
I decided to put the field music at night after Ganon to wind down a little bit before I did the ending tracks. Partly because there's nowhere else to put it, but partly because it was, well, it's always darkest just before the dawn. It's kind of a theme I'm going for.
Right, yeah.
So, that's appropriate for Twilight Princess as well. So this is sort of ghostly, haunting field music, but I mixed bits of Midna's theme into it because the Hyrule Field at Night track actually is a variant of her theme, although it's very subtly disguised.
The Field at Night theme is actually one of my most memorable moments from the game, because there was something about the quiet, back-of-your-mind quality of the music that plays when the sun goes down, and then the blue tint to the world and how everything seems so quiet, that made it feel like such a real adventure somehow. It felt like time would pass and we'd have exciting moments and quiet moments, and I really like that you put it here in the arrangement, because it felt like after all of that excitement and we were coming to the end, there was a moment to rest because we'd had to do the rest on the morning, and I think it really worked.
Oh, good. That is pretty much what I wanted to do, so I'm really pleased.
Nice.
I wanted to add to the mystery, too. There's so much mystery in that world. Even after you defeat Ganon, there's a lot left that's unsaid, and a lot of that has to do with the lore, and just all the different spirits in the land that we mentioned. And then from there, it was very easy to branch into the various Midna themes that you mentioned.
One of the finest, most unsettling, and yet strikingly beautiful themes from any Zelda game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Not your typical princess theme from the series.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, very, very much a departure, but it works. And then, of course, I moved on to Midna's Desperate Hour because I knew that several people would yell at me if it wasn't in there, but also because it's a very beautiful theme. And
yes.
That was one of the ones that definitely wasn't placed in its chronological position, but I thought it would make a nice sort of showpiece that I could sort of elaborate on.
Midna sort of has her own section, if you will. It's trying to finally delve into her character, because her character really is at the heart of the game.
Exactly, and I sort of saved it till the end, but that's because most of her story and resolution gets explained and explored at the end. And when her body is released and Zelda gets her soul back and everything, Zelda says, "For a while our hearts were one." And I think playing Midna's Desperate Hour after that is just almost like exploring all the emotions that were inside of Midna all along, just showing what she's been through in the meantime. From there, I moved to the point where she transforms, which is a very, very warm feeling. It sort of it keeps the drama of Midna's Desperate Hour, but gets warmer and warmer and more of a climax. And that was the perfect transition. Not perfect, but the best one I could think of to go to the calm theme, which I thought would be the best happily ever after theme, with the exception of Ilia, which came after. So Ilia was the climax of the happily ever after. Right at the point where Ilia's theme gets its most intense, in the actual video on my YouTube channel, I had a bunch of fan art that I found, and I showed just as that clash hits, the theme gets very explosively happy.
Oh, nice.
It shows Link on his horse riding through Hyrule Castle Town with confetti being dumped on him, and everyone's following him, and everything's all resolved. That's what I wanted to convey with the song. The piece of art actually inspired me.
It has that celebratory feeling to it, where somehow, despite all the odds, everything's going to be okay, and it builds up right into that resounding overworld theme, which is the triumphant song that has been carrying you through the entire adventure from the beginning. Yeah,
exactly, and that really, in a way, the overworld theme is Link's theme.
Yeah,
we've been focusing on everyone else, and now we're seeing, look who's been behind it all this whole time. Look who never really talks, who is so humble and so easygoing about all these things, and he's been through the worst of it out of everybody.
It's the theme that you're going to carry with you since you're walking in his shoes, and it feels appropriate to build all the way up through this. You're at 27 odd minutes at this point. And finally that comes back, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that this was missing so gapingly until now.
I tried so hard with that one. I just poured my soul into it. I thought, this has to be so satisfying. I wanted every single note to just pound into the person's heart, especially that that bit where it has that little cyclical legato. It's because that's sort of like the flowery, emotional insert amid all the clashing thunder, so to speak. That's the part that tugs on your heartstrings. So I had this harp go at the same time, and I had the whole orchestra join in.
It worked really well. I think you did a great job with that part. And the part I always listen for is that the with the chorus and the swelling of the orchestra. That's the part that like just digs right at my heart.
You know that doom doom doo 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 doo. That part, the brass somehow was underwhelming compared with the overworld, and I thought, no, that's got to be the part where the orchestra's about to finish, and all the fans are eager. But
it doesn't get much more victorious than that.
Actually, out of everything in the entire suite, that's the thing I kind of have the most regrets about. I hope I made up for it with that choir at the end doing the intro theme in the wolf howl.
Oh, easily. The choir makes up for everything.
Okay. When the wolf howl came in, I actually worked at it for about 10 minutes, getting that wolf howl in the exact right spot. It had to be at the pinnacle of the choir, not too soon, not too late, and just at the point to send a chill down your entire body when it hits.
Was it the same howl from the game, or did you take some other source?
A different one. I found a free wolf sound. I looked through about 7 of them and chose the one I thought was the best. So.
When I listened to this arrangement for the first time, I was driving in the car. And when I got in the car, it was, late afternoon, just entering evening, I suppose. I had many stops along the way. And by the time I got home, I had basically gone through all of Twilight, which was very appropriate. And right when I was driving into the driveway, the ending of the song was starting to rise up, and as the wolf howl, sort of shook the vehicle I was driving in, the full moon came out from behind a tree.
Oh man, you're gonna give me chills. That's awesome.
It was one of the best moments of wondrous coincidence that I've had.
I love that stuff. I want to tell you a brief story. This is Zelda related. When I was working on my Ocarina of Time medley, right as I was working on the Song of Storms movement, a huge thunder and rainstorm broke out.
That's great.
And we'd had a drought for about a month. And I was just so pleased, and it felt like it injected life into the actual song.
Well, you don't sell that melody short. It has power. We've seen that time and time again. Now that we've sort of gone through the whole journey of Twilight Princess, which, by the way, I still have my Twilight Princess HD with Wolf Link and Midna amiibo in the box, waiting to be opened.
Oh, nice.
I don't know why I have not gotten around to it yet. I can't wait, but...
So worth it. That and the Wind Waker HD remake, they're both incredible.
I've played that. Made me so happy to play it on my much larger television than I originally played the game with. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But what do you think about the new Zelda game that's been announced?
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the Wild. Let's finish with that. Look into the future.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks pretty extraordinary. I honestly don't know what to think about it. There are a lot of things that I'm very excited about and a lot of things that I'm very uncertain about. And in a way that makes me even more excited for it because I don't quite know what to expect.
It's like if you take the original Legend of Zelda and mix it with Skyrim and add something else in there.
Yeah, no, that I've heard that comparison before and it seems pretty apt.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a lot of open world games that you often see these days, which in a way makes me a little bit disappointed because Zelda always stood out, kind of as it's very uniquely itself. But I have a feeling that Nintendo's going to give it a spin that I won't be predicting until I actually play it, and that makes me excited.
Well, one thing I can say, take Skyward Sword for example. I don't know about this new one, but they never waste any space. Ever in Zelda games, every single thing has a purpose. Mm-hmm. every single item is significant in its own way anyway. Everything feels very balanced. Every world flows nicely. I don't imagine this will be an exception, although I don't know for certain because based on the sheer size of it.
Yeah. Well, knowing Nintendo, they'll find something very special and interesting and unexpected to do with it. And you're right, Zelda games are very purposeful. And especially Aonuma's direction. He seems to be the director on this game, and he was apparently the director of A Link Between Worlds, and that seemed like a very purposeful game. So I have high hopes.
Yeah.
I think that pretty much wraps up the interview so far. Keith, thanks a lot for joining me for a little while.
Yeah, it was great to be on the show again.
Absolutely. And so where can people find more about your music or follow you on the internet if they would so desire?
Follow me on YouTube. I do have a SoundCloud, and people always want to check it out, but it has not very much on it. Twitter's an easy way to follow me, because I post everything on there, and I also have a Facebook fan page, which is linked to on my YouTube.
Yeah, plenty of choices, folks. And of course, we'll link all that stuff in the show notes. So check that out, all you fine listeners, and we will see you next time, and take you back to the show.